Hello, welcome to the Sideboard here at the StarSeedGames.com Season 3 Invitational in Atlanta, part of the SCG Tour, brought to you by Ultimate Guard. I'm Nick Miller alongside Team Card Hoarders Captain Chris Andersen. How you doing?
Hey Nick, how's it going?
Good to have you here in the Sideboard.
Thanks.
Now, you and a lot of your teammates had been playing the White-Blue Flash deck for most of the standard season.
Basically, yeah. I picked up the Blue-White Flash deck. I read Jerry's article about like 3 or 4 weeks ago about his version of the Blue-White Flash deck with the revolutionary rebuffs in it, and I missed day 2 of that open and had played no standard really since the Pro Tour, and I was like, well, this deck looks awesome. Jerry's a great deck builder. I guess I'll just play that. Played a couple of matches on Magic Online the night before, and then I played it in the tournament and just crushed with it. It was great. Right. So I'd basically been playing that deck for the next several weeks or so.
You and a bunch of the Kiefer kids and friends were playing that deck. Classic top 8s here, you know, standard top 8s here. But now a lot of the team has moved on to this Temur Aetherworks deck. Yeah. What was the driving force behind that?
Well, we came to the realization after SCG Knoxville that the green-black matchup is actually pretty unfavorable, and it basically was everywhere. And we didn't really want to have a bad matchup against good players playing green-black, because the Invitational has the best players that the Tour has to offer, and I just didn't want to play against a bad matchup with players who understood the matchup. Sure. So I wanted to look for something that had a good matchup against green-black, and this is basically, this has got the best matchup of any deck against green-black in the format. It's not absolutely dominant, but it's good. Sure. So. And also, it's just a ramp deck. I love playing ramp, like ever since like Devotion.
Last season, or last year on the tour.
Yeah, I love playing a ramp
back-to-back top 8s. With,
I've been having a lot of fun this weekend. I'm playing Valakut in Modern also, so I'm just ramping in all formats, and it's been great.
Tiers of Valakut in the sideboard of this deck.
Yeah,
we'll get to that here in a minute. But Valakut in all formats. So we've seen this deck kind of pop up as of late. I think it kind of gained notoriety from Jabberwocky Online.
Yeah, Logan Nettles built this deck online. He has been destroying Magic Online ever since Kaladesh has come out. I believe as of this weekend, he has 35-0s in a league, and leagues are really tough. I 4-1 every now and then, 3-2 most of the time, and rarely pick up a 5-0. I would say that Magic Online leagues are about as tough of competition as you can possibly get outside of like the PT. It's really, really tough, and he's 5 of 30 of them. That's absurd.
That's a lot.
That is absurd.
So and it's safe to say this deck has the tools.
I don't think he's done all 30 with it, but certainly like the last several has been because of this deck. And yeah, it's definitely a contender. This standard is not a 2-deck format. There's a lot of room to innovate, and honestly, I don't think that the format will be finished by the time we move on to Aether Revolt. It's something that's been cool about standard. I would say the last standard that has been solved was Rally. That standard, everybody knew what was going on by the end of it, but ever since then, I feel like there was room for innovation by the time we moved on to the next format, which I think is really cool.
Well, let's break down this deck and why this deck is so good against the format. You know, obviously you want to beat up green-black, but we have what we've seen in like the previous iterations of the Aetherworks Marvel decks, which is all of the energy stuff, but you get to play the sort of delirium mid-range game as well.
Yeah, you basically get to pick your poison based on the matchup. So we have Aetherworks Marvel. We pair it with Attune with Aether, Servant of the Conduit, Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, and Harness Lightning, and Aether Hub. That gives you lots and lots of energy really fast, a bunch of cheap cards. They develop your mana. They are good against aggressive decks with Puzzle Knot and Harness Lightning, just a cheap 2-mana removal spell. Obviously, that's amazing against aggro. And Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot is 1 card and 5 mana for 6 life, which actually is oftentimes the difference between a win or a loss against something like Marduk vehicles. So you get energy really quick, and you can cast a quick Aetherworks Marvel, fire it off, get a Gishkanal or ideally an Emrakul into play, and you know, as early as turn 4, and then you just kill them dead. Right. But that's not really. That is just one dimension to this deck. The Temur Aetherworks Marvel decks of the Pro Tour basically were all in on that game plan. They were playing things like Contingency Plan to just try to get Marvel by turn 4 or 5, whenever, as fast as they possibly can and fire it off.
Instead of just going all in for Emrakul or Ulamog, you actually get to play a more well-balanced game.
Exactly, yeah. You just can't afford to do things like that in the standard when there's blue-white all over the place. Spellqueller laughs at an all-in Marvel strategy. You just can't do it. So we paired it with Ishkanah Graph Widow, which is the best tool that green-black has against blue-white.
Yep.
You basically can do the same thing, because you're starting out in the early game, you've also got Vessels, you've got, well, the Puzzle Knot's an artifact, Harness Lightning's an instant. You've got a very balanced Delirium curve, I don't know exactly what you call it, but there's 7 different types, and there's several types of all of these card types in the deck, so it's very easy to get Delirium really quickly. So you can do that with Ishkanah, and you have Chandra, which is an excellent planeswalker in its own right. It hasn't gotten a ton of play, but that has a lot to do with the fact that it's difficult to protect. If you can follow it up with an Ishkanah, though, that's a really good way to protect it. Also, since it ramps, you're kind of a ramp deck too, so it's very easy to use its plus ability. I believe that Chandra is as good as the +2 red mana is in your deck, and in this deck, it's excellent. So I've been really happy with the Chandras as well. We've got a World Breaker in here. Actually, that kind of goes to the other thing. We have Traverse the Ulvenwald in this deck. A lot of people playing the ramp decks have been playing Tormenting Voice. Right? So instead, though, we decided Traverse is just, it's an amazing card. It's a 1-mana tutor in Standard. Like, how can you get better than that? It's also a come into play tapped land. Both Attune with Aether and Traverse the Ulvenwald, if you think about it, they're come into play tapped lands, because you pay the 1 mana. When you play a come into play tapped land, it's like you pay a mana, the mana that comes into play
would
tapped.
have been
right,
untapped.
yeah. So with this, you just kind of pay the mana up front, and then you get the untapped land afterwards. So you can't play your tapped land on turn 1, but every other turn after that, you invest a mana, and then you get a land.
Sure.
And both of these cards do that, which allows us to only have to play, we play 21 lands. I've seen people play this deck and going as low as 19. So you really, it's hard to get flooded, and you get to make use of all of your resources because they both do other things, whereas with the Attune with Aether, it gets energy, which is really valuable. With Traverse the Ulvenwald, it turns into a tutor halfway through the game. So you can get Emrakul, you can get World Breaker if the situation calls for it, you can get an Ishkanah if the situation calls for it. It's just a fantastic card.
Yeah, just like the Delirium decks make use of it for mana.
They play 4. It's a huge mistake to play less than 4 Traverse in the Delirium deck. That's one of the best cards in the deck, you know? Early, it's great for you because it lets you develop. Late, it gets you exactly what you need. Same thing with this deck. Unfortunately, we can't play 4 of each because 4 Attunes and 4 Traverse kind of do exactly the same thing, and we just don't need that much of that effect. Attune is a little bit better in this deck because the energy is so important, but Traverse is a great card too, and I'm really happy with that inclusion in the deck over Tormenting Voice or something else.
Now, you and Jacob Ball both finished day 1 at 7-1. You're playing this Temur version with some blue cards in the sideboard.
Yeah.
But also notable, he's on your team. He's playing a Naya version.
Yeah. He so on Tuesday, I believe, Tenja messaged the Card Hoarder group chat, and he's just like, "Guys, I think we did it." And he sends me this list, or he sends us this list. He has 4 Nahiris in his deck, no Chandras, and he has a Sigarda in his main and the side. Now, Sigarda is an interesting one. It hasn't seen a lot of constructed play, but it's quietly very, very good, and it hasn't gotten nearly the amount of respect it deserves. So first off, it's a mana sink. It gives you, like, you get to pay 2 mana, exile any card in your graveyard, and put a human into play, token. You got tons of cards in your deck, your Delirium deck, so you're going to be putting cards in your graveyard that you can easily turn into creatures. So it kind of gives you an army in the can, similar to Ishkanah. Not quite as powerful as Ishkanah in that regard, but it also gives you hexproof, which is really, really good in this deck because the black decks are trying to attack you by playing cards like Pick the Brain, Lost Legacy, Transgress the Mind, and it shuts all of those off. It's very, very good against that. You know, just kind of like how White Leyline is so great against Junt. Similar kind of thing. It also has 5 toughness, which is a magic number in this format. All the removal does 4 or less, you know. Harness Lightning does 3, Grasp of Darkness is a -4/-4.
Right, stops Andersen.
It's bigger than Andersen. Finally, for the mirror, Emrakul targets your opponent when you gain control of their turn. If you have Sigarda in play, they can't Emrakul you, which is pretty awesome. And since we have Traverse in our deck, we can just tutor for it very easily, if that's what the situation calls for. And Nahiri, I mean, it really doesn't need to be much said about Nahiri. She's a fantastic planeswalker. Obviously, we have a lot of Emrakuls in our deck, so we can like ultimate her and then just make Emrakul and bash them for 13. We don't get the turn trigger, but 13/13 trample haste. Put the Emrakul back in your hand and then cast it the next turn and take their turn and win the game most likely. Pretty solid. But even if you don't really emblem her all that often, she does a lot of other things. Her plus ability allows you to discard things, which lets you set up Delirium a lot more easily, lets you dig for your Marvel if you don't have it yet, or something else, Ishkanah, whatever. She also exiles enchantments. One of the best cards against this deck is Stasis Snare. So when they Stasis Snare you, you'll have main deck answers to their Stasis Snares, unlock your Emrakul, unlock your Ishkanah, and get Spider Babies back.
Sure.
You know, it's really strong. Finally, it destroys tapped creatures and artifacts as well, or exiles tapped creatures and artifacts. It's just good good damage control, removal spell type of a thing, card advantage engine. Sure. It also picks off opposing Aetherworks marbles if they decide to activate it during their turn. You have to get a little tricky playing your marvels against the Nahiris. You have to activate them at the end of your opponent's turn, which isn't quite as effective because you don't have like the 13/13 body to be able to swallow up a creature the very next turn, you know.
Well, you're on the Temur version.
I am.
And that's in the sideboard, so last thing, we'll go over the sideboard real quick. You got some blue cards here from the basically free splash, Ceremonious Rejection, and Negate, and then we can go over the other stuff.
Between Attune with Aether, Traverse the Ulvenwald, Aether Hub, Servant of the Conduit, all of these cards, there's so many, any color you want sources, basically.
Yeah.
So all we have to do is add one island to the deck. We've also got a couple of Evolving Wilds in the mana base, and we have tons and tons of blue sources, so it's very easy to splash whatever color you want in this deck.
Okay. Then over there we got creatures. You got Tireless Tracker. We've seen this out of most of the Marvel decks now, and Ulamog, and then Tears of the Valakut, Kozilek's Return, and Natural State is some removal.
Right. So let's see. We'll start with, I'll go left to right. So we got Nissa on the left here. Nissa's a really good card that hasn't seen nearly enough play in Standard. It's incredibly powerful. I think that the thing holding its back the most is Ishkanah, honestly, just because, and I guess Verder's Gearhulk is kind of in the same situation. You got all these incredibly powerful 5-drops in the format. Avacyn's another one. There's just so many great 5-drops. And Ishkanah's probably the best one. It's got 17 points of power and toughness spread across 4 bodies, which just halts the game. Everybody is aware of that. If you've been paying attention to Standard, you know how dominating Ishkanah is. So unfortunately, Nissa hasn't had her time to shine yet, but against some decks, you just put this card into play and they die. You know, a 5/5, it can block, it can protect, the land stays a land until your next turn, so it can protect Nissa. You have a lot of very, very powerful permanents that you're putting into your graveyard in this deck too, that you can get back with her minus ability. Yeah, she's great. She has 5 casting costs, which is kind of neat because of how good Spell Queller is against this deck. You just cast Nissa and they can't Spell Queller it. Pretty cool. Next we got Ulamog. We almost didn't play Ulamog. We almost ran an Appetite for Brains, or not Appetite for Brains, Appetite for the Unnatural.
Unnatural,
that one, yeah, Artifact and Enchantment removal, so that we could kill opposing Aetherworks marbles. But we decided.
It's all right.
No worries. Just wait it out.
No, you can keep going.
All right. So Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger. It's really only good in the mirror. We bring it in against really slow control decks as well. But like, it's okay. It has a really high ceiling because if you hit it really early off of Marvel, the game's just over. You know, kill your 2 lands, you're down to 2 mana, whatever. I've got a 10/10. Tireless Tracker, we got several of these, 3 trackers.
This is the value plan.
It's amazing. They kind of are priced into boarding their removal out against you because it's so bad, right? Like, unless it's like kill anything type removals that can get Emrakul and things, but when you've got an Ishkanah deck, your removal is just incredibly inefficient against it. So they board out their Grasps or their Harness Lightnings or whatever, and then you bring in your trackers. I'm actually doing the exact same thing in Modern with my Valakut deck. I've got a bunch of trackers in that deck too. Playing 5 trackers this weekend is pretty great.
We got removal for flyers and enchantments and artifacts. So.
Basically, yeah. Natural State, one of the really, it's instant speed. I can't stress enough how great that card is because of instant speed. Killing a Stasis Snare and unlocking Emrakul, ideally, you know, into combat, block your thing, untap, just crush you. Okay. Tears of Valakut is very good against blue-white. It's uncounterable, which is pretty nice. Kills Avacyn, kills Copter, kills Spell Queller.
Spell Queller, most importantly, probably.
Yeah, those are all important. And then we got the blue cards. I'm playing Ceremonious Rejection and Negate, 2 of each. You could also play Spell Shrivel, you could play a Dispel. It really depends on what your metagame looks like. I would recommend sticking to the counter spells that cost just 1 blue instead of like Summary Dismissal or Void Shatter or something like that. Too hard to cast those. But Ceremonious Rejection is mostly for the mirror. It counters Marvel, it counters Emrakul for 1 mana. You don't get much better of a rate than that. Yeah. And Negate is basically good against. I bring it in against green black. Basically anything that has spells that you just don't want to deal with, you can bring the Negates in. I bring that Negates in against quite a bit of things. So.
Well, the deck looks great, and the thing that I think to wrap it up is day 2, the top tables are Delirium and Aetherworks decks. So like clearly people have figured out these are the decks to go with. Blue-white's starting to fall off, but
I kind of expected
the Aetherworks decks everywhere, and
Right.
I think your team in particular is one of the big proponents of it. So
yeah, awesome. Yeah, I like my mirror match because of all of the blue spells. Like we said, Ceremonious Rejection is amazing in the mirror, and I think the deck just naturally preys on green-black. So I really like where I'm situated in this format. If that's the case, it's green-black and marble.
Yep. All right, Chris. Well, thanks for joining me here in the sideboard.
Absolutely.
Very detailed primer on this deck. I think if you're looking to beat Delirium, this is the best place to start.
I think so. Delirium is a powerhouse, don't get me wrong, and it can certainly beat this deck. It can beat anything because of how strong the deck is. In the hands of a skilled pilot, Green-Black Delirium is an amazing deck. But this is the best way to beat it, I think, right now in Standard.
Thanks for joining me here in the sideboard. For Chris Andersen, I'm Nick Miller. Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Atlanta.